Today I'll be introducing us to MySQL, and in our next class, I guess we'll be working on Mongo. But for today, we'll be using MySQL. So to begin with, you have to get MySQL and MySQL Workbench installed on your system. Please confirm if you can see my screen. All right, so you need to get MySQL and MySQL installed. MySQL Workbench installed on your system. I'm sending a link. I'll still be acting on that, but you can. I'll be sharing the YouTube link so you can go back to the video and check later. So let's start by installing MySQL. All right, so once you search MySQL install, it will Google will suggest this site for you as the MySQL website. This is dev.mysql.com. And this is MySQL installer for Windows. So if you're using Windows, you can download this from here. You can download it from here and install. However, if you are using Mac, if you are using a MacBook, you'll have to use that. You'll have to do that on your terminal. And how do you do it on your terminal? You are going to say build install MySQL. I have it installed already, so I don't think it's going to take so long. All right, I have it installed already. MySQL 9.2.0 is already installed and up to date. All right, so now that we have MySQL installed, I want to connect to the SQL. So on Windows, you're going to open your terminal, and on MacBook as well, you're going to open your terminal, and you're going to say MySQL u root and g. So MySQL, this is a command, and this flag u is telling this command I want to enter my username. So my SQL username is root, and then this flag p means I want to use password. So once I press enter, it will ask me for password. My password is currently empty. That's the default password for my SQL. So I can press enter. I can press enter as well. So now I'm connected to MySQL. You can see welcome to MySQL monitor command. Basically, the terminal is welcoming you to the SQL command, to the SQL CLI. So one command I can run here, I want to see what my databases look like. I can say show database if I'm correct. Show database. All right, I guess that's not correct. All right, let me check for that command again. A moment, please. Yes, show databases. Show databases. And you are meant to use the termination key. Yes, so in my SQL, I have the information schema database, MySQL database, performance schema database, and the sys, which is the systems database. Right. So this SQL CLI, we are running SQL commands here. And the first SQL command I'm running here is to show databases. So it will show me the database I already have in my SQL. As you can see again, everything still remains the same, right? Now I want to create a new database for our system. We've been working on this book system for the past, I think the past 3 weeks, if I'm correct, or 2 weeks. So we want to, presently what we have now is that whenever our server restarts, we have an empty array of books. Are you getting me? But we want to make our data persistent. In that case, if we terminate our server or if we restart our server, we'll still be having the books we already created. And that way we'll have to communicate to the database. So the first command I want to run is to create our database, and I'm going to say, so this is one SQL command I copied somewhere. Create database node app. This will be the database name. Create database is the command. Those are SQL command. Create database node app, and then we terminate. Use node app. That's telling the CLI. That's the MySQL CLI to use this database. That's the name of the database, which is this one. The CLI must have created. And after creating the database, you want to create a table. So you'll be touching these guys one by one. So here we are working on books and not apps. So we are going back to our terminal and say create database, and our database name. Create database. Here we are creating books app, or book app, anyone. And then we terminate. Let's go. You can see, let me try increasing the size of this guy. You can see here we have query okay, one row affected, and let's run our show databases again. Sorry. Show database. And you can see we now have the book app as part of our database. Are you getting it? So we have a database for this our project, this one. We have a MySQL database. And after creating the database, what do we want to do? We want to tell this CLI to use this database we just created. So we want to say use book app. And yes, you can now see database changed, which means the database we are communicating to is the book app database. Now, what else do we want to do? We want to create a table. So inside the database, you can have multiple tables. You can have tables for users. You can have for books. You can have for many things. You can have for products, right? You can have for many other things. Limits. You can have for accounts. Just many other things. So here we are working with books. We want to create. So let's just do this. We want to create table. And what's the name of our table? Books. Why are we using books? We are working with books. We want to create a table for books, right? And the name of your table has to be a plural case for your object. So if you are working with books, the name of your table has to be books. If you are working with notes, the name of your table has to be notes. If you are working with products, it has to be the plural products. And then after that, you want to add this curly braces. Yeah, you want to add these parentheses. You want to add these parentheses, and then you add your columns. Your columns. First thing we want to have is the ID. If you notice in our book, what we have here, if you see somewhere in our code base, we were working with ID, create book, we were, all right, we are working with ID where we are counting the previous items in the database and adding one to it. So that's the same thing we'll be doing here. We want to have an ID, that's the name of our column. The data type will be an integer. It should be a primary key. And what do I mean by primary key is that this is the unique identifier for each node on this table. Are you getting me? If it is a primary key, that means it is only that row. It is only that row that owns that key. So if we have ID1, it means only this row owns this ID1, and it is what you can use to identify this row. And then the auto increment key, which means anytime we create a new book, you want to auto increment the value of this ID. So if the last value, if the ID of the last value is 1, the next one will be 2 automatically. The next one after that will be 3, and so on. And then we'll add comma that we want to continue our columns. Another column we want to add is in our book. I think we are using title. Is it title or book name? We are using name. So we want to say name. And then what is the data type? The data type is variable character of 255 maximum characters. So this name, this guy here, this name here is a variable character. We have alphabets here, we have special character here, and we may also decide to have numbers here. We can just add any other thing. And again, it should be 255 maximum length. Not null keyword means that it is not allowed to be null. It must have a value. Am I communicating with someone? And then the next column we want to add is the author. So we want to say author. Again, this is a variable character. 255, not null as well. Also, we want to add the created at, which is what the data type is a timestamp, not null as well. And then the default will be now. And when you see now, it means the current time the row is being created. So now we have our create table statement. This is an SQL statement. So what we are going to do is to copy this, come back to our terminal, and then if I do this, press enter. So what I'm going to do is to bring everything together. Bring everything together. So we have this. And again, after that, I'll terminate. So this is what we have now. All right, so let me paste that again. You can see create table, and we have table name. Inside that, we have our brackets where we'll be specifying what we need in our columns. The first thing here is the ID. Second thing is the name, the author, and the created at. This ID is an integer, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. It will be our primary key, which is what we'll be using to identify each rows, and then it should auto increment. So if I press enter, you can see query okay, 0 rows affected. So let's do something. Now that we've created our table, we want to see that table. We want to see the tables in our database. And what are we going to do? Just like we have show databases, we are going to say show tables, you can see we have books table, just books table. One row in set, we have just one books table. And yes, we'll be using, the next thing we'll be doing is an insert statement. Insert statement, that's what we can use to insert when you're trying to create a book, or you use to insert a book to the table. And the insert statement goes to insert into where our table name, which is books. And then we'll say we want to put our headers. Sorry, we specify our column names. Here we have the name and the author. Are you getting it? And then we say the values for these guys should be the name of the book is Thy First Book. And then the name of the author will be your medium icon. And after that, we do what? We terminate. So I'm creating just one book, inserting two books. And I want to specify the name and the author. And then I'm setting values as. So what happens here is that the name here has to be, the first thing here has to be the first thing in the value. The second thing in your column has to be the second thing on your value. I can't interchange this like this. That would mean the name of the book is Aramide and the author is That First Book. So you should take cognizance of that. So the name of my book is That First Book, and the name of the author is Ayomide Michael. So let's copy this as well and paste in our terminal. You can see query, okay, one row affected. So let's come back to, all right, so I want to run another query here to say, select all from books, which means I want to select all the rows from the books table. I forget to sorry. Again, I want to say select all from books, and you can see I have just one book. The ID is one, the name is Thy First Book, and the author is Ayomide Michael. Created that, our timestamp is there. Can you see that? Our timestamp is there. Now I want to, okay, so I was able to create a table with this command. I was able to insert to the table with this command. I was able to get from the table with this command, select all from books. Yes, select all from books. And I can also say where IDs is one. It's one. So let's copy this and paste. So yeah, you can see I still have my book. So if you are running a select statement without where, it means you want to select everything. So your where query is important, or your where command is very, very important if you are selecting or if you're updating everything you want to do with MySQL or any SQL database. You have to, the where query is very necessary. So yes, we are running the where query here. And yes, we now have MySQL installed in our system. Do we have anyone lost up to this point? Are we all connected? Okay. So now that we have MySQL installed, how do we use it in our projects? If we're using it in the terminal, we want to use it in our project. And to use it, what we'll have to do is to install a node package, npm MySQL 2. So we are going to install this package, and this package is what will allow us to communicate with our database. So let's do that. Let's just copy this installation command, come to our code base. Come to our code base and run npm install MySQL 2. So yes, after installing, if you come to our packages.json, you can see we now have MySQL 2 as part of the packages, right? And what do we want to do again? I want us to create another file. Let's just create another file here and say database.js. Database.js. So what do we want to do inside this file? We want to communicate with our database. We want to communicate with our database. Sorry, please give me a moment, please. Okay. So what the first thing we want to do is to say constant MySQL is what require MySQL 2, just like we've been doing in our index.js. So yes, we now have MySQL 2 here. And then we want to say connection. We want to connect to our database, right? We can now say constant connection is what MySQL dot create connection. This create connection will receive some values. Some values which includes, I think, it will receive the hosts. And which host are we using? That's the server where our database is currently hosted. And where is my server and where's my database currently hosted? It's hosted on my system, which is still our local hosts, right? And then we have the user, that's the username, which is root. Don't forget I said that's the default username for MySQL. And then the password, like I said the other time, my password is still an empty password. So yes. And then the database, which is the database we created the other time. If you check our query, we created books database. So sorry, yes, we created notes. Am I missing something? We created book apps database. The command is not here, so let me just copy this too. We created book apps, books app. Let me check my terminal to be sure. It is book app, not books app. We created book app. So the name of our database is book app. So let's come back here to our database file and say database is book app. So yes, that way we have our connection, and I want to say that promise, so I can be able to use async and await with this connection. right? And then what do we want to do? Let's come to our terminal and say node database.js. If you can remember, I said node and define name will execute that JavaScript file. So let's press enter. And nothing is happening if I'm correct. Let's come here and say console.log database connected. Here, database connected. So now we want to run one of our queries. Let me close every other thing I'm doing here. We want to run one of our queries. And how do we do that? We are going to say constant results. I want to say await connection.query, which means I want the connection to execute this query. Then inside that query, I'm going to put what I want to do. Presently, what I want to do is to select all from books. I want to select everything from books. And what do I want to say? Console.log the results. So log the result in my console. I think we have an error here. Thing require is not defined in ES module scope. So what we can do is to say, let me be sure we have this correct. Let's go back to so I'm trying to check the documentation of this MySQL too. So yes, this is supposed to work. Let me check again. You know what we are going to do? We are going to copy this guy to our console. I know a better way we can fix it, but we've not gotten there yet, so I don't want to start confusing us. Let's come here and say type. Type should be common JS. And I think that should fix our problem. All right, so the problem here is await something. What we can do is to say so because there's no async here, I think that's why it is not working. So let's just remove this await and see the results we have. We have a promise of pending. You know what we are going to do? Let's say instance run command. Or let's just say async function run command. Yes, so bring this inside here, and we want to say, wait, we want to wait for this guy. So let's do that again. Okay, we are not running our function. So yeah. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm running this command, select all from book with this connection, right? And after getting the result, I'm logging into the console. So my result is coming as, let me just clear this and run again. My result is an array. My result is an array. And inside this array, we have two arrays. The first array here is the actual data that we need. And the second array here is some of the metadata that we really do not have any business with. This first array is what we need. So don't forget, I said, when I log to the console, the result is giving me an array of two other arrays. So this is the first array, and this is this is the parent array. This is the first child array, and this is the second child array. So what we need is actually this first one. And here I'm going to say we need constant rows, because these are actually the rows. Is what results the first array. So here I want to log the rows. It should be rows, not rows. And yes, I want to run this command again. Now you can see we now have an array of the actual value in our database of what we are selecting. We are selecting first. We are selecting all. Select all from books, right? Are we all connected? Can everyone hear me? Is anyone lost? All right, so now that we have what we have in our database, I want us to do some things. I want us to play around with this. So let's create a function that gets books, gets all books, right? This should be an async function. Sync function. And you know what we are going to do? We are going to say, let's just create a service. The services folder or repository folders, but let's just say services, not to confuse us. And then we want to say book service bookservice.javascript.js, right? So inside this database, I want us to export our connection. I want us to export our connection. So I can come here and say export constant connection. Yes. Export constant connection. And I think I can say export. Am I correct? Let's just export the connection like that, so as not to confuse us. So what we want to do here is to say constant connection is wire. That's not what we are going to do. Somewhere here we did module.export. So yes. So we are exporting this connection as a module. So we are going to say module.export. Yes. So what I can do here is to say my database connection is what's require. I come out of this folder and then database. So now we have our connection here. We want to create a function that creates books. So we are going to say, do is to say what we have in our database here. Okay, we want to get all books first. We want to say export async function, get all books. And what are we going to do? We are going to say constant results is what await. Yes, database connection dot query. And what is our query? Select all from books. From books, that's our table name, so that will be in lowercase. And then we want to say, just like we have here, we have the rows to be the first array in our results. And then we want to, for now, let's just console.log. Oops. So yes, it should be results, singular results. I want to clear everything I have here. And what I have here is only my connection. So yes, I want to say, let me terminate this. Yeah. I want to say this node services should run, this node JS should run, go inside the services folder and run book services or book service.js. We have an error here. Unexpected. Okay, let's just for now. And yes, we want to say get all books. Another error, console. This should be console.log. .log. So let's do that again. And yes, we now have an array of our books. Getting me? And this is like a JavaScript array. So that helps us so well. That helps us so well. Now we want to do what? We want to create a book. We want to create a book. We want to say, we want to have another async function that does what? Create book. And this will receive the name of the book and the author. I communicating. And again, we want to run. We want to run our query and say constant results, just like we have is await. Now, before creating, let's try and find. Let's find a book. Find a single book is async function. Find book. And this will receive the ID of the book because that's actually our primary key. That's what we'll be using to look for every of these books. So find book, and yes, we will run this query. We consider, results is what? Await database transaction, database connection query is what? Select all from books, right? Where ID is equal to ID. So I will change this to something like this. But before then, let me just log this to my console so you can see what is happening. Constant query is this, and then I want to do what? Console.log query. So you can see what is happening, and I want to say find book. Sorry, I want to say find book and one. So let's run this again. You can see what the query looks like. Select all from books where ID is, and this is the ID we passed in. So yes, we want to select from books where this where should be capital letter in uppercase. Where ID is the ID we passed in, and now we want to run our query. On the query again, don't forget we are going to get the rows by saying results. We want to get the first array, and then we want to say console.log rows. So let's do that. Let's terminate this and run again. You can now see I have an array of just one book. Are you getting it? And what we expect is not an array. We expect a single object of book, not an array of books. a single object of book. So we are going to come here and say, we are going to come here and say rows. So we are getting the first item in the array. So let's terminate this again and do this. You can now see we have just one book that we are looking for. So what I'm doing here, I'm logging to the console. Instead of logging to the console, I want to return. So return rows. Here, I want to return the first item of the row. The rows. So what I'm going to do here is to say constant response is this, and then I want to log the response to the console. So the functions I'm calling will return a value to my response, and I'm logging the response to the console. Let's do that again. Everything will still work fine. All right. So this should be let's just create another function here. Run operations. And yes. So we'll have to wait for this to run. And again, we want to run our run operations. So we won't have to worry about running each of these guys one by one. And everything still works. We are finding our book, wait for the book we are looking for, put it in the response, and log it to the console. We should be good on that, right? Are we all connected? All right, so now we have the find book and the get all books. Now I want us to do something like function create book, right? And this will receive, it will receive the name of the book and the author, right? Again, how did I say we insert into the database? If you check here, we have somewhere here, sorry. Somewhere here we have insert into books, blah blah blah. So yes, I'm coming here. Constant query is what I'm starting. And here I'm supposed to replace this with my query. Let me change this to SQL query so it's really confusing to my SQL query. And yes, this is our query. Insert into books. We want to insert the name and the author. And I am going to change this to this. And here I want to insert I want to put my name as the name. And because they are string, I have to put them in. I have to let my what's it called? My database know these guys are string. If they are integer, I can just say what's up. But because they are string, they have to be like this. So insert into books, we want to put just the name and the author, and the values are these guys. So again, we want to say constant results is what wait database connection dot query. And yes, we want to say we want to run our SQL query. So let's just log what we have here to the console. What we have on the results. And here we want to say, or let's just return our results. The reason I'm returning results is because I'm already logging it here. So what I'm going to do is to say create book. I want to see the name of the book is database with dive. Don't forget this create book method will receive two arguments or two parameters. Create book, database with dive, and then the name of the author is with passive. So we have the name and the name of the book and the name of the author. So yes, I want to log my response to the console. So let's terminate this and run this again. Now you can see what the response looks like. It is an array, right? So what we want to do is to say, for instance, so what we want to do is to say, we want to fetch, if you check here now, we don't have the actual thing we created, but we have the insert ID, which is the new ID, or let me say the ID for the row we just created. The ID for the row we just created. So what we are going to do is to say we want to get the results. Let's say, because this is an array, we want to get the first item in the array, which is this guy. And we want to say, let's say response, results, and the first item on the results. Again, we want to return the response. Let's say this one should be 2, this one should be. Name can still be, the author name can still be the same. Let's run this again. Now you can see we don't have it as an array again, we have it as an object. But what we actually need, we need the insert ID, that's the ID of what we just created. So you can say return response dot insert ID. Yes, insert ID. So if I come again, you can see the previous one I created was 2 and the third one was 3. So that works. Now we have 4. But what we actually need is what we actually need is the book we actually created. And we already have find book, so we can find it with the ID. We can just say return find book. And what's the ID? That's the response dot insert ID. So I want to create this out. Let's just change this to 5. Let's see. New. Yes, new. So now we have a new book we just created. Let me just create another one and say, yeah, bro. You can see we now have the new book, which the ID is 6, that's the name I added, and the author is Faith Bassi. Let's come to our terminal and let's run this last command. Select all from books. We are not selecting with ID. You can now see we have up to 6 books in our database. In our table, that's dive first book, up to 6 books. And here we have get all books. Let's get all books. I'll wait, get all books. And as you can see, we have all our books here. All our books here. We have create, we have find, we have get. So something I'm doing wrong here is adding the name and the author like this. Why? Because this will make our system prone to SQL injection. So this is it. If your users are entering something, you allow your users to enter the name of the book and the author. The users could come to this place and do something like delete from books. And if you are not properly, if you are not sterilizing your user's input properly, that's an SQL injection, and you may lose data from there. Or if you don't lose data, you may start showing users data they are not supposed to see. So what are we going to do? We are going to say this guy insert into books. We want to insert just the name of the book name and the author. So we are going to coming here to say is represent this with question marks, which the first one is for the name and the second one is for the name. So how do we go about that? In this query method, we now pass in our values, which is an array. The first thing here, which is in this question mark, is the name, and the name is here. We'll just say name, and then second thing is the author. So just say author. So that way we are sure that users' inputs are not getting to our system. So let's create another book. Let's say create book, another secured book, and who will be our author? I think our author can be a game. Yes. So if I clear this, run again, you can see we now have everything still work as expected. So that way we are sure that users' inputs are not executing as commands. Instead, they are coming in as parameters. So what we've done here is to create. What we've done here is to create here. Is to create. And what we've done here is to read. What we are doing here as well is read. Select from read. And what I want, another thing I want us to do is delete. So we want to delete a book. And how do we delete a book? Let's just create our functions. Let's delete a book. Create our function and say delete book, which is going to receive the primary key of the book we want to delete. So we want to say our SQL query will be delete from books. That's the delete from table name, where ID, very good, where ID is our ID. And I can just put question mark here to secure our system against SQL injection. So after doing that, my parameter will be ID. So delete from books where that. And now we have results. We actually don't need the response because it will actually be deleted. So we can just say await. And we want to come here. First of all, we have 7 books. I want to come here. First thing is to delete book. Let's delete 7, which means we want to delete the ID with the book with ID 7. And after deleting that, we want to say get all books. So you can get all the books we have in our system. If you check here, you can see I only have up to 6. I don't have up to 7 again. Okay, I don't have up to 7 again. Now I have 6. If I change this to 6, I want to delete the book with ID 6. And let's run this again. You can see we now have 5. We don't have up to 6 again. Let me just nice this for now. We don't have up to 6 again. If I come to my terminal, you can see we now have 5. So I said the other time that the where query or the where command is very important. Let's assume this query doesn't have where. So let me do this. And I don't know why I'm not passing. Yes. So delete from books without the where command. Let's see what will happen. Now you can see we now have an empty list after getting our books. Why? Because we've deleted from books without selecting which of the books we want to delete. Now all our books are gone. And with SQL, you can't undo. You can, if you delete something, if you update something, you can't undo. It is already there. Are you getting me? So you have to be very, very careful when using the where query. So we want to say where ID is question mark. And somewhere here too, we want to say where ID is question mark, and then pass our ID as second argument here. Yes. So yes, we have that. So that is to delete a book. Are you getting me now? Now I want us to update which is async function update book, which will receive the ID of the book we want to create, the new name, let's say the new name, and the new author. Right? This is what our query will look like. This is what our query will look like. So our query will look something like update who, where this, set this to this, where this is that. So we are going to say update books, right? Where, don't forget, no, we're not using where yet. We want to say update book, books, set the name to this, comma, the author to be this, then where ID to this. I hope I'm correct with this thing. So we want to set the name to our new value, the author to our new value, where ID is. This ID should be this as well. I just hope this is correct. So yes, we now want to say await service connection dot query, SQL query, and we want to pass in. Don't forget, the first thing we have here is the name. Second is the author. So this should be new name, new author, and lastly the ID. In the same alignment, in the same order we have these guys. So the new name, the new author, and the ID. I hope I'm correct. And after that, after the update is done, we want to get our book again. That's find book. It's that ID. That's how I'm communicating. Presently now, we do not have any book in our system, so you may want to create books. Let's remove this delete book and say, let's just create book first. First book created by Michael. And yes, I want to, now we have our book. Let me see, second book, also created by Michael. Second book. You can see the ID is 8 and 9. It's continuing from where we stopped the other time. I'm not starting from 1. So now let's do what? Let's get all books. Now you can see we have 2 books. Let me come to my terminal. we have two groups. We have two groups. All right, so now we want to update. Don't forget we have two groups. Let me get. We have two groups, one with ID 8 and the other one with ID 9. We want to say update group, right? And then the first argument or the first value this function is going to receive is the ID, which is 9. The new name, that's the new name of the group. I want to say new first book. If you check here, we have our first book to be first book. But the new name should be new first book, and the new author should be James Aniedi. Should be James Aniedi. And after doing that, we want to run this again. And you can see our book is now updated. We have the new book and James Aniedi. Let me just come to my terminal and run this command again. You can now see the new book is updated and the author is now changed. Are you getting me now? Let's create another pool. Let's just come back here. And say third book. Third book. I will meet Michael again. Run this command. We have third book. And here we have first book, new first book, and third book. Right? We have 3 books here. Again, I want to show you why you need your where query. Your where query or your where command. Let's say I'm updating book. Let's say I'm updating book. I'm updating book 9. Let's say 10. Another updated. I want to update this to Lingway. Right. Let's now assume that our update query doesn't have the where. It doesn't have the where command or the where clause or the where query. Then let's run again. Now it is updated, right? Everything works fine, right? But if I come to my terminal, run this request again, you can see that everything in my book is now updated to the same name and the same author. And that will be a problem. Imagine you have millions of users and you want to update just one user. Maybe you want to update the gender of one user. You want to update the gender of one user and you updated all users. That would be something you can reverse. That's a case where I don't know if any of us has experienced that, where on your school portal you are saying another gender, you are male, but you are saying female. That may be one of the issues that arise in cases like this. So you want to make sure you're aware really is intact. So yes, we have read, we have create, we have delete, we have updates, and now we have our CRUD. So this is what we call CRUD operation. CRUD operation. CRUD stands for create. R stands for read. U stands for update, and D is delete. So we have most of these things here. To create, you use insert into your table name. Here are the columns. That's the name of your columns, and then the values. Select, that's to read. You say select all from books where ID is, or where something is something and something is something. All right. Also, we have the delete, where you can say delete all from books where Your where query is just very important, and I'll be telling us more about the where query. But before then, yes, about the where query. So let's do something. I mean, everything we need here is here already. We have the get all books, find one book, create book, delete book, and update book. So we don't need this anymore. Am I communicating? What we may want to do now is to export all these functions. And how do we export that? We want to say, just like we have here, we want to say modules.export, but we want to export an object which we have get all books, find book, create book, and update. So yes, we want to export an object that has all these functions. At this point, do we have any question yet? Is anyone lost? Is anyone confused? So I'll drop a link to the Slack channel now. Daniel, someone is raising his hand. Yeah, you want to say something? I'll drop a link to the Slack channel where you can see. I'm dropping it now. Where you can see other SQL queries. All right. So you want to say something?
Okay, yes, I wanted to confirm something. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so literally you're saying when we write controllers, we still have to go and write the whole database thinking with SQL and create service and create database before we can have our backend endpoint completely done.
So yes, technically yes. You
And
have
then
to
we have,
communicate. You have
okay,
to communicate to your database one way or the other. The reason I'm going through this route of telling us the queries, how SQL queries work, is so that we can understand, we can have background knowledge of SQL. Right. Moving forward, we'll be using ORMs. And with ORMs, you don't have to be typing queries like this. But I want us to understand what is happening under the hood.
okay. Are you going to be showing us the basics for MongoDB 2 before you use the ORM?
Yes,
Or okay,
yes.
okay. So we're still going to be using ORM for SQL and even for MongoDB in this class,
Yes,
like for other classes.
yes, boss.
Okay. Looking like it's getting plenty already, but no problem.
Okay, it's looking like it's getting plenty.
Just something like that.
We are doing more complex things now. So now that we have these guys, I dropped a link to our Slack channel where we can see this is my SQL cheat sheets where you can see other queries and where you can use them. So basically, these are the things we are needing as of now, right? So what we want to do is to connect our endpoints. These are our endpoints to the services we already created. And now controller, we have the controller. What we want to do is to say, instead of saying we want to say constant book service, or let's say book repository, require, we want to get from, come out of this controllers folder, go to services folder and pick book services. So yes, let's say book service. So everything can be uniform. Right. So first thing we want to get all books. Get all books. Get all books. Get books. you know what we are going to do? Let's just remove all this for now. I'll be removing some things from this controller, but just to keep us safe, I'll duplicate this controller and just keep this guy here. Then we'll be working with this. Just keep that one here. So when we are working with ORM, we can come back to it. So yes, again, we want to import our book service via come out of this folder, go to services and click book service. So yes, now we have book service. What I want to say is to say constant books. I'm removing everything here. I'm saying constant books is what book service dot get all books. And definitely we have to wait. That means this should be an async function. You have to wait. And now after having our book, we want to say books is books. And this thing here is the same thing as saying this. So let's come to our endpoint. Get books, if I'm correct. For now, our query filters will not work, so we can just uncheck them, save, and send. All right, we've not started our server, so here, npm run dev. We are good, so send. Authorization headers not found. Authorization header not found. I think the other day we did here secret, if I'm correct. Let's check. So in our index.js, we did something, some token here, some token. If you can remember. So let's send. Now you can see we have our books coming from the database. Let's come to our terminal again. We have just 3 books with the ID 9, 8, 9, 10. And yes, we have 8, 9, 10 here. Do we get that? We get that. So what I did here was to import my book service. And here I'm saying my books is book service.get all books. Right. So you all can see my screen, right? So once you see me that I come back to this Chrome display where I'm seeing all of you guys, I want to be seeing reactions. So do we all get that? Very good. All right. So now we have our book. Now we want to create book. We want to create book. So what are we going to do? Come back to this place. Don't forget we already have our for now, let's just remove everything here. We need the name and the author. We need the name and the author. So let's come here and say, you know what? We have the data coming from the request body. We just come here and say constant book is what? Await book service dot create book. And this will receive the name, that's data.name and data.author. So if I'm using awake, I'll have to use async here. And now that we have a single book, create book, a single book that is being created, we want to say book. So Yes, single book that has been created. So let's send. Our book is created. Let's send again. Another book is created. If we come back to get books again, we should have the same book. Very good. Are we on the same page? All right. So we've done for create, we've done for get. We want to get a single book. Get a single book. And don't forget we have here we have the book ID. We can just say this should await book service dot find book. And which book are we finding? This is expecting the ID of the book, so book ID. Again, if I'm doing await here, I have to use async. So, all right. So I think this should work. It should work. So send book not found. Why? Because we don't have a book. The book with ID 1 doesn't exist in our database, but we have from 8 above. So we can search for something 8 above. The ID should be 10. And you can see we have our book. Am I communicating with anyone? All right. We've done for get single book. We've done for create. Now we want to delete a book. It is very, very similar to what we already have. Where's our delete book? We just want to come here and say await. Okay. Let's just replace everything here and say await book services, book service dot delete book. Again, this will receive the book ID. If I want to wait, I have to let this know that this is an asynchronous function. And yes, it should be good. So delete book. I want to delete the book with ID 8. All right, let's send again. Delete book is not a function. How? How? All right, we didn't export delete book here, so we should be good now. All right, book is successfully deleted. Let's get our book. You can see the one with ID 8 is not there anymore. Let's change this to maybe 10. Send. Book is successfully deleted. If we come back here, you can see the book with ID 10 is now missing. Book with ID 10 is now missing. All right, so we don't forget get single book create. Now we want to update. So to update the book, come back to our code base. We have get book create, get by ID. We have updates. Yes, if there's no book. So yeah, instead of saying books dot something, I want to say wait, book dot find book, and this receives the book ID. Again, I want to put asynchronous here. So if the book doesn't exist, we don't fall for book not found. However, if the book exists, we want to say again await. Or let's just say let book, right? And then or better still, let's just remove all these steps so we don't have to be confusing ourselves. So book stands book. Don't forget the updates will turn us the book created if I'm correct. If I'm correct, where's it? Update book, and after updating, it is finding the book. That's the new book it's created. So create book. Constant book is what? Await, right? Await book service update book. The first thing it is receiving is the book ID. So book ID. The second thing is the new name. And where are we getting the new name from? We want to bring this above the book creation or updating, where we have access to the data. I want to say data dot name and data dot author. And instead of me saying data dot, I can just structure from here name and author. Here I can say name author. So now we have book. I want to remove all these guys. And yes, book. So we should see our updated book. So first of all, we want to get books. We have this book with ID 12. Want to update book. First of all, we want to change the ID to 12. Want to body, name, and the author should be in here. Let's send. And we can see our book is now updated. Let's get book. Yes, John Deere. So if you don't forget, get single book, delete book, update book, and create book. Do we have any question? Now we've been able to link our endpoints, which is this endpoints, to a database. So if I terminate this server, or even close this project, let me terminate the server. Or even if I close the project, let me try sending this. I see our server is not running. I close the project as well and restart the server. Our data is still persistent. So are we good on that? All right, so something I want us to look at is environmental variables. Environmental variables. Environmental variables. So in our project, somewhere here in our database, you see we had coded the host, the username, password, and database, which is not so secure. If we push this code to GitHub now, that means anyone that opens our code base will be able to see our database credentials. Imagine we have a live server or a database in a production environment on a server, and we have code credentials here. We may be exposing our database to anybody. And also, in a case where this code is running on my system and I want Lindway to be able to run it on her system. Instead of now coming to the code base here to change the database credentials, she can just change it on the environmental variable. Environmental variable. And how do we do that? We want to say, first of all, we have to install a package, if I'm correct. .env. That's to install the .env package. And yes. So install the package, come to our code base. Come to our code base, new terminal, and install the package. You can see, if you come to your packages.json, you can see we now have .env. Right. And let's go back to the documentation. Let me just save the samples. If you come back to the documentation, says after installation, as early as possible in your application, import and configure.env. So I want to require, I want to come to somewhere as early as possible in my application, and my application entry point, that's the file where my server is being created, is index.js. So as early as possible, if you're saying as early as possible, we are saying somewhere here, right? Somewhere there. And after doing that, we can now say, let's go to the console and let's start our server. Sorry. Let's come here. Now you can see what our env look like. I'm saying all these things because I did console.log. So if I come to my env, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is to create a new file in my root directory called .env. So this file, you are not supposed to push it to your source control. And when I'm saying source control, I'm talking about Git and GitHub. So what do we do to avoid that? We come to our git ignore file and say, here what we have here is node modules. We are saying that we don't want to push this node modules to GitHub. Anyone that close this project should just install what we have here and the node module will appear. Also, we don't want to push our .env file. So I'm going to come here and say .env. Yes. However, we want people that we've not gotten there yet. So in our env, I can say sample something new. Something new is something new. Some secrets. Let me just say some secrets. Right. And I can now come to my index and say console.log. Let me just say console.log. Come in here, if you see something new somewhere here. Something new should be somewhere here. Yes, something new. So yeah. And now can we get that? We want to say from process.env something new. Something new. Process.env something new. So you can see some secrets. Right. So now that we are sure that our env is working, we want to remove that and say, first of all, the first thing I want to put in my env is this port, because I may prefer this application to be running on port 3000, while Libre will prefer the application to be running on port 8000 on our own device. Maybe there's already an application running on port 3000, so we want to say port is 3000. So what I'm going to do is to come here and say port is process.env.port. Everything should still work. If I change this to 8000, just see. You can see server now listening to port 8000. Listening to port 8000, if I come to my postman and try running something, it won't work. Why? Because we are making our request to port 3000. So we'll have to update that in our postman as well to port 3000. So yeah, we want to use 3000 or 8000. And I'll prefer to call this app port. So that's about the ports. What we want to do is also for the database configuration. So here we have database host. host is localhost. Database user root. Database password is empty, right? And the database name is, what's our database name? Bootstrap. So yes, my host is localhost, my user is root, my password is empty, and the database name is bootstrap. So if I come to this place, what I'm going to do is just say process.env.database database host. Do the same thing for this. This will be user. Same thing here. And this will be password. Same thing here. And this database name. So I believe we should be good. And everything still works as expected. Are we all still connected? Are we all still connected? All right, good. I'm checking if we can do some other SQL queries. Okay, I think that'll be all for today's class. Today we've talked about how we can install MySQL, create a database table, run SQL commands, which we can use to create, update, delete, and read. And I mentioned that you can read with, where's this guy again? You can read with select from your table name where you add your conditions. You can add other conditions. I can say where ID is and author is this. So it will do something like this. Something like an if statement. If ID is 1 and author is IMD. So this statement I just wrote here is this. So where ID is 1 and author is IMD. And also I can use or. So where ID is 1 or author is IMD. And I can say limits. So where this place that we are using find book, I can say limit should be 1. Because we're actually looking for just one book. And somewhere here, I can also say limit should be 1. All right. I don't want to say limit is 1 here. But I may want to say here we have the last book created here at the last item on the array. You may want to say order by ID in descending order. So order by ID in descending order. Let's simple thing. Now you can see the last book we created is the first on the list. So there are so many other queries like that that you can use with your SQL query. I sent a cheat sheet to the Slack channel. So that will be all for today's class. Is Mr. Samuel still with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here in the meeting.
Oh, nice.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation.